So, after our exploits where we made a ton of wood chips, we are now ready to continue working with our crops. Hello again, I am Jim Bob, and welcome back to Big Bud Farm. Now, we do have a field of sugar beets that are ready to harvest. However, we are getting very, very close to the release of the Roper DLC. So, instead of actually harvesting that now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold off on that field. If we take a look at our map, we've got this field down here, field 5. That is sugar beets. It's ready to go, but we're going to hold off because in a couple of episodes' time, the DLC will be available, and we will actually use and showcase some of that DLC in operation as we harvest this field. So we're going to leave that as is for now, and instead we're going to start replanting field 3 and field 1, so we kind of need to decide what crop to go with. Now, we could go with some more soybean. We have 450,000 litres already, and we could essentially double that up to 900,000 litres. That would be quite nice. Well, what we could also do is we could give ourselves a little bit of variety of crop, just in case a great demand comes along for something else. So I'm thinking instead we could go with sunflower, because sunflowers are a pretty big commodity in terms of their value. You can see there the prices, very similar kind of prices in some respect to canola, but we won't need anywhere near as much seed to plant sunflowers as we would for canola, so we can actually save some money in the planting process, because we are going to run out of seed as we're doing this planting. That's pretty much a guarantee. And if we ran out, we did it with canola, we'd run out probably a couple of times across both fields. So we're going to plant some sunflowers instead. Now, I'm trying to remember, but I'm pretty sure we can't plant... No, we can't plant sunflowers using our air seeders, which is a bit of a shame. I mean, we've got, obviously, our Great Plains YP2425A that's going to do the bulk of our, seeding for most fields. Where is my Terminator? Where did I leave it? Did I put it in one of the other bays by mistake? I might have left it over at the other farm, actually, thinking about it. Where is my Terminator? Let's have a look. Is this it down here? Yeah, here it is, look. It's down here. So I suppose that's kind of fitting, really. We're going to need to use it down here. What we're going to do then is, obviously all of our big buds are back over here again, dropped off and put away into storage. We're going to use the 747, and we're going to seed with... actually, no, we're not going to use the 747 for this. We're going to use a 450. Because we're not pulling the Terminator, but we are going to use the tank from the Terminator to boost the seed capacity of our YP2425A. So, which big bud shall I pick today? Hello, hello, hello. This one. This is the new one, I think. Yes, it is. Fantastic. So, let's slowly make our way out of the shed so we don't crash into anything. There we go. Let's go collect our Great Plains seeder. We'll take that over, and I'm going to get a worker to do that field, and while we're getting our worker to seed that field for us, we're going to do some contract seeding. So we're going to work away seeding field 4. Field 4 currently is in a state of cultivation, so there's a need for that field to kind of be fertilized and have a crop put down on it. Obviously, one of the ways that we've been raising money on this farm is to continually do contract work on fields 2 and 4, because we can get quite a lot of money out of those. And today is no exception. Because we don't have anything that we can sell right now, we have crops, but the price isn't good. The price for silage is still recovering, so it's too early to sell that. Price is around about 200 now and still climbing. If we take a quick look back at the commodity market, you can see we're up to 199 and the price is going back up again. So once that gets above 250, then I'll probably go ahead and sell off the rest of our silage as well. That'll be another few hundred thousand. and then we're just waiting for a really good price slash a great demand for our soybean. So we need something else on top of that as well. We have got those sugar beets, but as I say, I want to save those for when the DLC comes out, so we can actually see the Roper stuff in operation, you know, almost as soon as it's available. So we're going to plant some sunflowers. Let's get nice and topped up with this. I could have topped this up over at the other farm actually, or the other, you know, staging area at the bottom of field 1, but never mind. Let's make our way over. It's going to take us a little while to get there because it's a big lumbering slow beast of a tractor. It's like 1 mile an hour faster than the actual traffic in this. So yeah, it'll take us a while to run down to the bottom and then run all the way along field 2 and to the bottom of field 1. So I'll see you when we get there. Okay, so we are arriving at the staging area. See, there are our mother bins all parked up after our last harvest. That epic job that we carried out. So somewhere around here is my there's my Terminator. I remember now. I remember parking it up just there. Alright, so let's connect up. And I want to disconnect from the seed frame. I just want the tank. Do a little circle around the tree. And we'll fill this up with seed. We are really close to the house there. Oh dear. It's been a while since I've done this. Let's climb up and actually watch the seed going in. There we go, it's full. It didn't take long. So I need to fold that back up again. There we go. I have to say, I do love the fact that this seed tank is kind of universal, can be fitted with pretty much any seeder. It does allow us to really bolster our supplies. And I'm just looking at fuel and I'm wondering if that's going to be enough. I think just to be on the safe side, I'd better top up the fuel tank as well. Squeeze through that gap, there we go. And again, these things are pretty big and pretty thirsty, so this might take a little while. So again, I'm going to kind of do my little skip fade that I like to do when refilling things. Just like that. There we go. So almost full. Just the last few litres to go. It does take a little while to fill these things up. There we go, we are full. So let's go connect back up to our seeder. We'll get this underway and then we're going to jump over to field 4 and we're going to start cycling through till we find some equipment that we like, and we're going to try and plant sunflowers on field 4 as well, simply because I can switch out the header for one that I own and actually make quite a good amount of money by doing that. It's the most cost-effective way, or I say cost-effective, it's the best way to boost our payout is by doing it on a field of sunflowers. Oh yeah, when it comes to that, you know, this type of field, these really long fields. Because instead of running at 9 miles an hour with the standard corn header, we can run at 12 miles an hour. Sorry, instead of running at 6 with the standard corn header, we can run with, you know, a helianthus header and run at 9 miles an hour, get the job done quicker in terms of working with, and even quicker in terms of operating speed as well. It maximizes the time bonus that we get paid. Plus, by selecting smaller equipment as our start off and then switching the headers, we get paid a bigger initial lump sum as well, because it's giving us a payment based on the size of the machinery that we are taking the job on with. So let's get the worker hired, and the worker doesn't want... Oh, wait. I need to cultivate this field, don't I? Oh, what an idiot. I can't direct drill with the seeder. I completely forgot that. What a muppet. Alright, in that case, we are going to use our 747. And this time, actually, do I want to... Yeah, I want to take the large wheels off just to transport it on the road. In fact, actually, no, there's no point, because the cultivator is so wide that it's going to cause traffic issues anyway. Just have to be very careful easing out of here. It is possible to do it, as you can see. We're going to take our big 25.6 meter cultivator. Oh no, it's a 24 meter cultivator. It's the air seeder, isn't it, that has the 25.6 meter working with. Yeah, we're going to take our big cultivator. Where is he? Where is he hiding? Next stall. This beastie. We're going to take this over to the bottom of field 1. We'll get this guy started off first. It does mean that we will have to manually finish off just the last little bit of field 1, because the cultivator will be in the way for the seeder. Because the contract job is going to take me hours. When I say hours, I mean hours to do. I'm expecting the cultivating to take me a good 4 hours. Sorry, the seeding on field 4 to take a good 4 hours or so to do. Just hopefully we're not going to come across... Oh, yep, oncoming traffic. There it is. I'll have to take a little diversion. There we go. Centre out on the road again a bit more. So I'll drag this huge, great big lumbering flexi coil all the way over to field 1. We'll get that started. We'll get the seeder started off behind it, and then we will jump over to field 4 and we will start doing some seeding work over there. Alright, it's really getting foggy, as you can see. It's getting quite hard to see. I mean, this is a cool little effect in some respects, but I can't wait for the volumetric fog of Farming Sim 19 to see how it varies from this. By all accounts, it's going to look fantastic, and yeah, really looking forward to experiencing the difference between the current fog that we have and the new volumetric fog of Farming Sim 19. Of course, that's still a long way away. I mean, we're what, in February? We're still 8 months away from the release. 7-8 months, something like that. Right, we're lined up, so let's get this guy up and running. There we go, 10 miles an hour. That's kind of good, because not only has he got a wider working width, he's also a mile an hour faster than our seeder. So now we should actually be able to get this guy up and running, now that the ground has been cultivated. Yes, there we go, our worker sets off. And away we go, seeding. Oh, and he's stopped. Why has he stopped? Ugh. Goddamn AI problems. Alright, let's run manually for a few seconds. And start. Okay, so hopefully there'll be no problems going forward. But of course, we're completely at the mercy of the AI now, because we're not going to be around to supervise. So if anything goes wrong, we won't know about it until way later, in which case it could be kind of slightly problematic. I really hope that's not the case. Right, field 4. Now we want to plant sunflowers, but we've got a cultivation. Oh, actually, no, we can do some fertilising first. That'll give us some decent money. Not a huge amount, but it'll give us some decent money. Maybe about close to about 90 to 100,000. It all adds up, right? And then by the time that's done, we should be in a position to check on our seeding and our cultivating. We could even perhaps get that finished. Ooh, quad track. I don't think I've used a quad track on this farm on a contract job before. I might have done. Yeah, let's do this. Let's get it fired up and connected. There we go. Start unfolding as I zoom out so I can see where I'm going. Of course, we have to do all of this manually, of course. This is why I tend to use workers a lot on Big Bud Farm, because I do a lot of manual work when it comes to contracting. So it's not like I don't do any work on this myself. I actually do an awful lot of manual work on this farm. It's just you don't tend to see a lot of it because it's just contracting jobs like this. You know, generally just, you know, fertilizing, cultivating, occasionally when I'm feeling slightly masochistic, ploughing. Because the ploughing jobs take hours and hours and hours and hours and hours to do, because the biggest plough it gives me is a 6-meter plough. So I haven't tried actually bringing over a 10-meter plough. I could try that next time I do a plough job on this field. I could bring over, you know, I've got a 10-meter plough now. I've got the Gregoire Besson 10.5-meter plough. I could bring that over and see whether or not I could actually connect up to that. That would be quite interesting. But generally, it doesn't give me a powerful enough tractor to actually pull that thing. So that's why I haven't bothered in the past. But yeah, it might be worth something to try. If it's going to give me a quad track, that on its own should be just about powerful enough at base level to actually pull the plough. Because normally it just gives me the 6-meter... I forget the name of the brand now, but the standard kind of 6-meter plough, the Salford plough, that's it, the 6-meter Salford. That's the largest one it offers you when you do contracting. So a 6-meter plough on a field that's 104 hectares takes at least 8 to 10 hours. You know, it's when I'm feeling at my most masochistic when I take that job on, which isn't very often. But I have done a lot of cultivating, a lot of harvesting. Fertilizing jobs are usually quite easy. They take 2 to 3 hours to fertilize a field this size, and they pay out reasonably well, say up to 100 grand. So a lot of contracting work like this has been done on this farm and will continue to be done right up until the point where we actually buy the field. So I'm going to disappear for a bit and do some more slurry spreading, and I'll catch up with you in a little while. And there we go, got a border done, so just linking up with that first little bit that I did. That gives me a little bit of turning room at the edge of the field, so I don't run the risk of getting that 10-second countdown if I drive too far off the edge of the field, which with a long equipment and a tractor that isn't great at turning, or at least not at turning with powered equipment anyway, it's just good to have that little bit of extra space. So now begins the long, arduous running up and down and up and down. Let's just take a quick look at the mini-map and see maybe a quarter of the way through the field in terms of cultivating, and a little bit further behind that in terms of seeding. So it'd be a bit interesting to see who gets done first, you know, the seeding or me on this field. I wonder. So as you can see, I'm coming up to about a third of the way through this job, and the cultivator is about 3/4 of the way through the field, so that's going to get done very, very quickly. The seeder is about nearly halfway through the field as well, so they're going to get finished before we finish on here. That's pretty much a given now. And then once we get finished on this job, we'll be able to move the cultivator out of the way, get the seeder to just finish off what's left, and then we'll move the seeder over to field 3 and we will seed field 4 as a contract job. And that will take me at least, I would say, 6 hours somewhere between 5 and 6 hours. It depends on the seeder that I get given. I imagine that it'll be the Great Plains seeder. That seems to be the largest one. That and the Terminator are the largest ones that I've seen offered. Maybe it's been a while since I've done a seeding contract job on this one. Maybe we may possibly get offered the Seed Hawk, but the Seed Hawk itself is actually not going to do us any favours at all if we want to plant sunflowers on this field. We would need the Great Plains YP2425A. So 18 metre working width, 9 mile an hour speed. Yeah, probably talking 5 to 6 hours to plant on this field. That's not too bad, but it's going to be a long old slog. Okay, so you can see our position on the field. You can also see from the sort of disc in the top right corner, we are nearly halfway through, and the cultivating is done. You can see right at the top left hand corner of field 1, that yellow dot with the green dot there as well. That's our 747 with the flexi coil cultivator. It's parked up, it's finished. That worker has gone home for the day. Our seeder is still running. He's a good 2/3 of the way through the field. We're kind of making a little bit of progress in terms of keeping pace with him and maybe possibly catching him up a little bit, but I still think he's going to finish before we do. I'm expecting there to be, depending on, because obviously it's a shorter working width with the seeder than the cultivator, one of two things will happen. We'll either end up with a very thin strip down the side of one field and then a patch at the top, because there isn't quite enough room for the seeder to get there, or yeah, and obviously he'll stop behind the cultivator, or he'll try to make a turn and he won't be able to do the final pass or two because of the cultivator being parked at the edge of the field, which means we could have a fairly wide little strip, you know, of a couple of passes worth that we need to do. So it'll either be just one pass or two passes that we'll need to actually complete once we get back onto that field and take control of our seeder. It shouldn't take us too long, but it'll be interesting to see exactly where our 450 ends up once the contractor is finished. And eventually he'll sit there for a little while just saying that his way is blocked, and I think eventually he'll just give up and go home. I hope that's the case. I honestly can't remember how long he'll stick around for. I really hope he doesn't stick around permanently until we finish this job, because if that's the case, we'll be paying for him the whole time he's sat there stationary. If that's the case, it could prove quite expensive. I guess we'll find out in a little while. So I've been watching my worker for the last sort of minute or so, and he got to the top and he turned, and as he started to come back down again, he stopped moving. He's just hovering there. So I think his way is blocked by the cultivator and the Big Bud 747. I haven't had anything pop up on the screen to say worker is blocked, but then you don't generally tend to get messages about your workers and stuff while you're on a contract mission. So big question now is, how long is he going to stay like that before he gives up and goes home? Is he going to stay like that for the rest of this contract that I'm working on? I've still got a third of the field to go, as you can see, so this could end up being expensive. So I've decided I'm going to deal with the situation myself. So I've kind of stopped just so I can tab through and see how far I have to go to get to the vehicle, and it's only 4 vehicles, so we're going to cancel that other worker. There we go. So yes, he's now gone, so we don't have to worry about him sitting there racking up a big bill. We can carry on as normal, and then we can do the little bit of field that needs to be done manually ourselves once we've finished on here. Oh, there we go. We are done. So, $70,901 as the payment for the job, and a further 23,954 as the time bonus. So, not a bad little run of form there. What, 71 for the job and 24. That's $95,000. That's very nice indeed. Right, let's go over to our big buds. If I can find the big buds. Actually, there's one of them. We can move that out of the way. Oh, look, we have got a little strip that needs to be completed first. I had a feeling that might possibly be the case. Lower the cultivator. And off we go, just to do this strip down here. And actually, what I will do is I'll find the other one and I'll get the worker restarted. And then he can chase behind us. I think that might be close enough. Slight overlap. Yes, there we go. That's good enough. Where is the 747? There it is. And we are fractionally faster, so we don't have to worry about holding up that 450. This thing is just a monstrous cultivator. It's absolutely huge. This is the only farm I ever really used this on. I mean, I remember when I first got hold of the DLC when it came out on the day it went live, and I had a test farm set up that I'd been preparing for about a week or two before the DLC came out, and I was testing this on American Outback. It was just a monster then, and it's still a monster now. But I don't use the 747 that much. This is the only farm I've ever really used one on, I think. You know, outside of, you know, my testing stuff. It's one of those tractors that is really kind of impressive and imposing, but if you want to stick to kind of reality, there is only one of these in the world, so you would never have more than one of these on your farm, because they just, you know, there isn't more than one of these in real life. The 450s, there were loads of those made, in, you know, well, not loads, but by comparison, there are you know, a load of those made, and so you can get away with multiple 450s. Be nice if we get an expanded range of Big Buds, maybe in Farming Sim 19. I don't even know if Big Bud itself is going to carry across. I imagine some of these pieces of equipment will carry across, but as for the Big Buds themselves, I don't know. I would imagine they'll probably carry across. It'd be really nice. I mean, I don't mind giving up the 747 in 19. I don't mind giving that up because I don't use it that often. So I wouldn't necessarily miss this tractor here. I would miss the 450, and it would be nice if we were to say lose the 747, if we could maybe replace it with you know, other tractors in the Big Bud range instead, and actually have two or three, you know, 2 or 3 different versions of a Big Bud that we could play about with. Maybe have the ability, I think, what was it, a 550? Maybe get some 550s and be able to fit dual wheels to those. They would be awesome to have, you know. There's so many sort of possibilities. The Big Bud range, while they'd never made massive numbers of each particular model, they did make quite a large number of models across you know, across many years, and across, you know, a large spanning range. It'd be nice to get a little bit of variety from that in the future. Get some extra Big Buds that we can play about with, because they are pretty fun tractors. And of course, this game has become very, very popular in North America, and Giants are looking to, you know, to please the North American market, because it is such a big market, which is why we're seeing, you know, American maps featured in the main game. We're seeing an increased amount of American equipment. You know, it's only natural that, you know, if you've got a large gaming market, that you would want to kind of satisfy some of their, you know, some of their content requirements and desires. The game will never, I think, never go fully American. I mean, this is still a European game by a European company, made primarily for a European audience, but it is definitely embracing the American community. And that's not a bad thing at all. You know, I like to have a range of style and content. You know, so it's great that we can, you know, get maps that are really sort of very heavily UK themed, with maps like Coldborough, and we've got Oakfield that's coming, and obviously we've got the West Coast and Chellington and Thornton and Sandy Bay, and very, very specific UK maps with that very specific UK kind of feel, with the weird angled fields, you know, with the big hills and the tight roads and the smallish yards that are quite confined. That's very much a UK thing. And then you start to have some of the slightly more open European maps with slightly larger roading, or slightly wider roading, slightly more open yards, maybe increased storage. You know, you've got maps like, you know, Green River that just came out, and you've also got things like Hagenstedt and other examples along that kind of lines. And then you've got the US maps, like obviously this one, American Outback, Houdat Ranch. We've got Lone Oak coming, hopefully towards the end of next month, I would imagine. We don't know exactly what's going on with that in terms of a release window, because it hasn't been finished yet, but progress has been going on well, and it looks as though Bill thinks March might possibly be a realistic release window for that, which, when you consider how little time he's obviously put a lot of time into it, but how short a time window it's been since he stopped working on the West Coast and started working on that. It's come out really, really quickly, or the progress has gone on really, really quickly. And if you haven't read the sort of up-to-date thread with all the sort of updates that he posts, he has a thread on the FSUK forum, and also, you know, a duplicate of that on the Giants forum. What I'm going to do is I'm going to post a link to the Giants forum thread in the description of this video. So if you haven't seen what's going on up to date with that map, in terms of, you know, all the extra little bits of information that he's gone back in and updated his original post with, then I do recommend you go check that out, because progress is going on really, really well. There's loads and loads of screenshots that you can see with the map coming together, you know, in terms of some of the scenery, the borders, the setting, you know, more information about the Lone Oak itself, and you know, with the seasons as well, you know, you can actually see, you know, some seasonal shots in there as well. It looks really, really good, and I can't wait for that to come out. That is potentially going to become the new home of American Midwest once it comes out, and we've had the chance to have a look around it. We may well sort of uproot American Midwest and move over there. I just get the feeling that could be the perfect map for it. And I think what I might well do is I might borrow elements from Big Bud Farm and merge that in with American Midwest on Lone Oak as well. So you might see a couple of Big Buds pop up. You'll definitely see some of the larger equipment popping up. Things like this, like the Terminator, and possibly a Seed Hawk. You never know. We'll certainly be getting some quad tracks up and running on that farm once we make the move, because there are going to be some big fields, and you need big equipment. So you need something big and powerful to pull them. So yeah, lots and lots of potential stuff coming up really cool with that map. I can't wait to see the finished article, and hopefully we won't have to wait too much longer. Maybe another month, 6 weeks, maybe a little bit longer than that, but fingers crossed we will actually see that sometime in March. And speaking of moving maps, don't forget, yesterday I announced that I was putting a poll up on my Facebook page so that you could vote on the future of Deutz Farm, whether that stays or whether that is scrapped and replaced with a second season of Fent Farm on the new Green River map. Make sure, if you haven't already voted, that you head on over to my Facebook page. The link to the poll will be in the video description down below, so make sure you check that out. Head on over, cast your vote. It's a 5-day vote. It's due to end at midnight Friday morning, so you've got a few days still. You've got 4 days to go till that finishes. 3.5 days, 4 days, something like that. So make sure you check that out. And your say is final. Whatever you decide is what will happen. You know, I have my own personal feelings. I mean, about both options. I've put a bit of effort into Deutz Farm, getting it up and running, and I'm quite proud of some of the stuff that we've done on that map already. And I really love the new the new Green River map. If you haven't already seen my map tour, I gushed a little bit at that map. I just really enjoyed it. So I could go either way myself. I'd love to do a let's play on the new one, but I'm more than happy to stick with Deutz Farm if that's what you guys want to see. So as I say, the decision is yours. Head on over to my Facebook page, cast your vote, let me know which of those two farms you would like to see, and whichever one you choose will be what continues or takes over on the Tuesday and Friday slot. So Mondays and Thursdays is obviously Seasons in the Valley. That's not going anywhere at all. Tuesday Friday will be Deutz Farm or Season 2 of Fent Farm. And then Wednesday, Saturday is American Midwest. That's not going anywhere for a while either. And then obviously every Sunday we pay our weekly visit here to Mustang Valley for Big Bud Farm. That's kind of the schedule. And I'm planning on sticking to that schedule for quite some time as well. Keeping the farms equally spaced. We're going to do things a little bit differently when Farming Sim 19 comes around, and we'll go into that as we get closer and closer to the release of that. I have some ideas as to what I want to do for Farming Sim 19, and I may possibly keep 1 or 2 of my Farming Sim 17 farms running for a small period, like an overlapping period as well. We'll see. Again, we've got plenty of time to go until that hits, so we'll see how things go. But this is just about done, this field here. So after this, it'll be some contracting. Or in fact, we can do that right now. Let's see. It might be a cultivating job that we have to get done. Let's see what is being offered. Oh yes, some cultivating. A lot of cultivating. Which reminds me, we need to cultivate... Where is my 747? There it is. We need to cultivate field 3 before we can plant on field 3. So we'll very quickly get field 3 cultivated. If I thought about it, I could have been nearly halfway through that field already by now. We'll get field 3 cultivated, then we'll get the seeder started on field 3, and while that's going on, I will take on another contract job, which will be to cultivate field 4. And then that's going to be it for the end of this episode, I think. That will be a fair amount of contract work and a fair few hours that I'll have been, ploughing away, or, say ploughing, you know what I mean? Working away on this map today. So, obviously I've got to make sure that I've got time to actually edit this and then get it uploaded. So yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll cultivate field 3, we'll get the seeder running, and then while the seeder's running, we will take on a contracting job again on field 4 to do some cultivating there too. Just bringing the 450 back to the farm in preparation for working on field 3 while we're cultivating, and I'm looking at the seed count. We've got 3,604 litres of seed left, and that's the combined total of seed that's in the tank and the seeder. So obviously our Great Plains seeder is a seed only planter. It doesn't cultivate, so it It won't work on fields that have stubble, hence the reason we're cultivating, and it doesn't fertilise either. It literally only holds seed. But you can see that we do have fertiliser in that display. Now that's because that's the fertiliser that's still left over in the tank. But the seed total is a combined total of the seed that's in the tank and the seed that's actually in the seeder. Now I think the tank might be empty. Let's take a quick look, see if I can actually see. Is there any seed in there? It looks pretty empty to me. It's hard to get directly above it, but it does look pretty empty. So we've got, what, 3,500 litres left in the tank. Now, the combined seed capacity of the tank and this particular seeder is around 15,500 litres of seed, somewhere in that region. So we've used a good 12,000 litres of seed to to plant on field 1. That's a lot of seed. You can imagine a field there, that's only 30 hectares. Field 2 here, that's more than double the size, that's 80 hectares. So you can imagine how many times we'd have to, keep potentially topping up. We'd have to top up probably a second time, I would imagine, to get field 2 done, which means maybe 3 top-ups would be needed to do field 24. Sorry, field 4. That is a 104 hectare field. That's huge. It's an awful lot. As it is, I'm just going to top up the seeder itself rather than the tank. A, because it's cheaper, and B, I don't really need to top the tank up for this. Let me just jump out and have a look. There should be hardly anything in here at all. Yeah, look, we drained that completely. Absolutely drained that completely. So we were just running off seed that's in that tank there. That's pretty impressive. Right, nothing to do now except wait for our field to finish cultivating before we set this off, so that we don't have the same issue as last time of these guys tripping over each other. And then once that is done, and it won't take long, you can see already that big sort of patch that's already been churned up by the 747 there. You can see it just stretching down towards the bottom of the the top of the screen, the bottom of the field. You can just see that little snagger. The big bud itself is off in the distance outside of our draw range, but you can see the change in colour where it's working. And if we keep watching, that should continue to sort of get closer and closer to the edge of the field before eventually it'll, yeah, like you can see, you can hardly tell that it's not actually part of the field now. So it shouldn't be too long before the 747 comes back into view. We're going to get set up, but we're not going to get started. As I say, we're going to wait, get the cultivating done entirely, then we'll get this seeder up and running, which gives me the freedom to go ahead and work on the next field without worrying about the equipment tripping over itself. Just back this thing up. Always awkward when you've got an articulated tractor and a tank and the seeder, trying to make sure that everything stays lined up in a way that it doesn't start getting really wonky. So sometimes I find it easier to just back up further than necessary so I can straighten up as I pull forward again. That should be good. Right, engine off. Let's take a look in the distance. No sign of it yet, so I will see you once this field is cultivated and we're moving the 747 off the field. And there we go with the last of the cultivating. Excellent stuff. So we can fold this up now, move it out of the way, and what better place to hide it than here, out of the turning circle of the 450. Let's jump into the 450, get that guy started. And off we go. Right, time for us to jump over to field 4. we need to get a good sized cultivator and a powerful enough tractor. Ooh, actually, you know what? We're being offered some pretty meaty tractors here. We're going to try and improve our lot on this field as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our flexi coil over to the other field. We're going to get that parked up, and then we're going to cycle through until we get a powerful tractor like that Challenger we just saw for a second there, but with a smaller cultivator. We'll take that job, and then we'll use the tractor provided with our cultivator, which means we'll get the job done quicker. We'll be offered a larger first payment because we'll be given a small cultivator in comparison. And then we'll get a big time bonus payout as well, because we'll get the job done a lot quicker than predicted by using, you know, a much larger piece of equipment than was initially, you know, provided. So I need to unfold the cultivator, get that prepped and ready, and then obviously detach the big bud and drive that out of the way. There we go. Now normally I wouldn't position this on the edge of the field like this. I would position it off to the side somewhere, but because the spawn point for the equipment is over there, sort of by that path, I can afford to actually have that set up on the edge of the field and it won't get in the way. So I just need to make sure that this is out of the way for turning circle purposes. So that's parked up just there. Let's jump back to the field, spawn point, and let's cycle through. Not powerful enough. There we go, that's perfect. So that's been giving us a very powerful tractor. It's going to give us 176,000 for the job, and we'll get a huge time bonus on this as well, because we'll get done with a working width that is twice the size of the piece of equipment being provided at the same speed as well. So we're going to start this one, and I get to use the Anaconda, which is a bit of a monster. I don't really use this very often. This will have enough base power to pull the flexi coil without any issues whatsoever. So scoot on over, get connected up. Now, I have done this before. I'd forgotten that I've done this before, but I have done it before, but I've had issues in the past because this cultivator always had that habit of dragging on one side, and so it became quite lopsided. I forgot that the recent patch, I say the recent patch, the 1.5.1 patch that came out a couple of months ago to enable seasons to be used actually fixed that issue. As I say, again, it's been a while since I've used one of these things. But there we go. So this is me now for the next, let's see, it's giving us just under 10 hours worth of time. So this is me for the next 5 hours. It's basically driving up and down, cultivating this field. Maybe 4.5, we'll see. We'll see what we end up with in terms of our working time. That field's going to get seeded way before I finish this, way before I get it done, but this will give us a nice big cash payout. So I will see you at various little points through this job, and then again at the end. So we're about an hour into this job, and as you can see, I'm already a third of the way through. So a job that's given us nearly 10 hours of time, and I'm a third of the way through, in fact slightly over a third of the way through after just 1 hour. That's an indication there of just how much of a time bonus boost you get by using a piece of equipment larger than the one that is provided for you. This job, using the equipment provided, usually the general rule of thumb is whatever the total time given, you're looking at around about half to 2/3 of that time is how long it'll take you to do the job, and then you'll get your time bonus based on what's left. So we would be looking at 5 to 6 hours if we were using the 12-meter cultivator. Probably around 6 hours, somewhere around that point, and then we would get a time bonus on that remaining amount of time. We're going to get this done in less than 3 at this rate, and so we're going to have about 7 hours of remaining time. That's going to be a huge time bonus. And of course, because we used a 12-meter cultivator in our selection of starting equipment, we got paid, considerably more. We're getting paid 170 something for this job as the base cost. Now, if I were to take this job on using this particular cultivator, the base cost for this job would be around about 80 to 90,000. I think it's around 88,000. So you can see, by selecting the smaller equipment and then actually switching it out for a larger piece that I already own, I'm more than doubling sort of the payout for the job itself, and I'm getting a substantially larger time bonus for having a massive amount of remaining time. So I will see you when we hit hour number 2 and see just how little we have left to go. Well, I screwed up again. I looked away, I got distracted, and when I looked back, I'd run off the edge of the field. I tried to turn around and get back on, but I wasn't quite quick enough. I was about half a second too far away from getting back to the edge of the field, and I failed the job. And that's actually the second time that I failed this job as well. I failed it the first time as I was making my second pass up that part of the field there, and had to cycle back through the equipment and restart, and then sort of pick up where I left off, kind of thing. And now I failed again, and it's just my own stupidity, just not paying attention, not looking at what I was doing. I got distracted by something on my phone. So I'm going to call it an episode here. I'm not going to try and do this again today, but there is another cultivator actually in this equipment list, if I can see if I can scroll through it. This one here, the Horsch Tiger 10, this is a 10-meter cultivator. It's even smaller than the one that we were just offered, which was the 12-meter Lemken cultivator. And I have seen this offered with the largest Challenger as well. So I'll do this sometime off camera, and you can see that we have an even bigger payout. Instead of 170 something, it's 207, just under 208,000. And of course, being a 10-meter cultivator, we'll be given even more time. Instead of 550 minutes, 650 minutes. So adding an extra 100 minutes, effectively. An extra hour and a half, plus an extra hour and 40 minutes to our target time, but we'll still get it done in around 3 hours, so we'll get an even huger payout when it comes to the time bonus as well. So that's what I'll do. I'll do that off camera, and next time you come back, I'll have hopefully a nice extra stack of cash, because I'll probably end up doing the seeding job as well off camera too. But you've seen the basic principles of how I like to switch out my equipment to get the better payouts on these large contract missions. So go ahead and try that yourself. It'll work on all contract missions to a point. You have to be careful what equipment you swap, but it is doable. So I'm going to wrap it up here. If you haven't voted yet on my Facebook poll, whether you want Deutz or Fendt, then you can click the link in the video description to go straight to that poll and cast your vote. And I will see you with another episode of Big Bud Farm and the result next weekend.